Hey everyone, welcome to that Rugby Union show. And I got to apologize for the gremlins. We did intend to start at 7. We weren't able to, but we are here and with a special guest as well. One I'm looking forward to. He's got an incredible story and a good opportunity to delve into what it is he's up to now, how his career went, and maybe talk a little bit about the state of fly halves in South Africa, the state of fly halves when it comes to the Springboks, because he himself is a Springbok fly half. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Elton Jantjies.
Good
Ella, it's
evening,
good to
brother.
see you, my bro. So good to see you, bro. I haven't seen you in quite some time. Although, wait, I lie, I
Yeah.
lie. I did see you. I was doing stadium announcing at Ellis Park a couple of months ago, and I saw you sitting in the stands in front of me, and I loved that because I thought this is Elton's home. It only makes sense that if he's not doing anything on a Saturday afternoon, he's going to be at Ellis Park in the grandstand, sitting with the fans, watching the guys, even if there's only 2 or 3,000 people in the stadium. Loved that, my brew. How often do you go through to Ellis Park?
Um, not quite a lot, but obviously I'm doing the game changers development program, and one of the things is to expose the young men to the reality of what it takes to be a professional sportsman or a professional rugby player, and it's not just about the rugby. It's also how do the attention from the public in terms of with me, in terms of getting all the cameras on you and, and get in touch with people on an external way. So cameras on you or taking photos and engaging with people away from the rugby game. I teach them in a different way in terms of how to handle with things like how to handle things like this and make them aware of being well known and being a Springbok because it's not just on the field, it's off the field as well.
Yeah, I really want to get stuck into game changers and what it is you're currently doing because I think, yo, it's not the lessons that you're necessarily going to learn from a traditional coaching point of view, but the lessons that will matter when that spotlight is shining bright, and it certainly shone bright on you. But before we go forward, let's start at the beginning, maybe, because you know what? I always brag about people born in the Eastern Cape because I'm an Eastern Cape boy. And I never knew this
Mm.
about you. I didn't know you were born in Graafrenet. I always thought Florida. Florida. I always, whenever I think of Elton, I think of Hoërskool, Florida. But Graafrenet, is that home for your
Mhm.
parents, or was that because your old man had to travel? I'm also an army brat. My dad was also in the army, so I understand that life.
Oh,
He's retired now and is very very old. But it's not a you don't get to settle for too long in one place.
mhm. So I was born in Cabinet, obviously, and I don't talk a lot about myself publicly. I'm
Mm.
just a guy that
Yeah.
doesn't focus on myself and being the best version of myself. And yeah, born in Cabinet, um, Eastern Cape boy. There's a lot of
Yeah.
rugby players from Eastern Cape. Uh, and yeah, dad is in Middelburg, which is hour away from Krabinet,
Mm.
100 km, so hour and a bit. And yeah, I was born there, grew up like for 2 years, grew up there with my grandmother because dad and mom wasn't married yet. It's normal tradition, in the old ways.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I grew up with like for 2 years with grandmom in Gravinet, and then after years went to Cape Town. Yesterday grew up there, and yeah, and then the journey just started like that. So yeah, that's how it is.
And then what age was it? High school that you moved to Joburg?
No, obviously you mentioned about the military. So you have to be open minded and you have to adjust as quick as possible. And
Mm.
so it was Cape Town, and then that was moved to Pretoria. So I was in Pretoria, was 11 years old, 10 years old, Pretoria. And then from Pretoria, we went to Potchefstroom, from Potchefstroom back to Cape Town, from Cape Town back to Joburg, or Pretoria,
Sure.
and then I ended up in Joburg. Open
Yeah,
minded,
yeah, yeah.
and uh, that probably helps why I played, why I adjusted so quickly overseas. I like Japan, I like France. So, yeah, so start with young, and I like new
Yeah.
things. And
I know you don't like talking about yourself, but the one person who I know was very special to you, who you spoke about, and obviously to lose influence would have been massive, is your father. But his role in getting you to love the game of rugby, in coaching you, in guiding you, how important is that? How important was that, just in terms of determining your path in this game, in this world?
I don't think words can describe that. Just when Dad passed away, the only thing that I always tell people is that my father did enough. He passed away when he was still young, 40, but in my life personally, he did enough for me to be where I am today, to be the person that I am today, and the principles and values that he installed in my life. Is just why I'm so internally driven, and that's why I encourage people to just be the best version of yourselves and not to worry about external things and saying being externally driven. You don't need validation and you don't need to praise anyone. You just focus on yourself and just have your own opinion about yourself. So obviously you're learning in life and you're learning on the right to feel, but get get your thing, man. What works for you and what makes you tick, and stick to it. So yeah, that played a big role. Military background, big family person, and a lot of simple principles, hard work and discipline, and
Yeah.
with military, and I love it, and I want every single
The,
thing. But
The funny
then
thing about being an army brat is I know this about myself as well. Dad was very strict. Everything is straightforward. You know how the bed must be made in the morning. You know what he expects. You know what disappoints him. But then I find that army brats, children of military people, tend to be very individualistic. Ella, yes, the discipline is important, but then I also tend to find that they find their own way. And whenever I watched you play rugby, I thought this guy, even when I watched your brother, when I watched Tony play, this guy doesn't do it like other fly halves. He's got his own way. He's got his own style. We saw that flair, I think, with the junior Springboks as well, when you were that age already. Who do you say you modeled your game after? Is there somebody who inspired you in terms of the style that you play? And you love playing an open running game. And we'll delve into the details in a bit, but is there somebody who you looked up to and thought, I can do this. This style suits me.
You know, obviously my father, yes, since I was born, Dad was my first coach, and obviously, first I was born with something that from God, and Dad identified that, and he knew what's my strength, naturally, and we spent a lot of time kicking and training unbelievably hard, and giving me the reality of what it takes to even consider rugby as as a career. Because I didn't know. you can actually play provincial in rugby. So I was 12 years old, but I was military school and playing rugby and loving the game. And then dad just took me um, to trials, and I didn't know about it. So yeah, that's something that we can discuss later. But back to your question is my dad identified something and he knew all along what I was born with and working hard on other things, what it takes to be a single player. And I didn't know, but yeah, he didn't know, and I understand. And then when it comes to things, I look at everyone, like Johnny Wilkinson back in the days,
Yeah.
Dan Carter, Tito, and like Stephen Larkham, Herky Creer. I was privileged to work with Herky Creer, Carlos Spencer. Um, there's so many things that I was watching, and I was learning a lot from what makes this guy special, what makes this special, what makes us. But with that knowing, getting to know myself and me as a 10, um, but not just as a player, but it's from coaches as well, learning from coaches and finding out what's their philosophy.
Yeah.
And then developing my game and getting the abilities to play a running game, kicking game, a pressure game, taking game. Yeah, there's a lot more things that I've started to be able to make sure that I can do my thing. It starts with being getting to know every single individual, what's their strengths and weaknesses, so I can open up my game. And yeah, that's what I coach currently and developing is for young rugby players to actually know what it takes to become Springbok. It's not just about you, but making sure that you need to get to know the guy inside and outside of you. And that's something I've always done through my career. Never spoken about it. I don't talk about it, but I know, for example, a guy like Rowan Dreyer plays in a specific way. A guy like Rowan Jantjies, for example, John de Villiers, John de Jong. I was figuring things out on my own, getting to know the player individually, know what makes him tick, so that also plug in. Yeah, a little bit of a more thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's funny, the ones that you mentioned Matt Giteau, you mentioned Carlos Spencer, Dan Carter, Johnny Wilkinson, and I think the through line that I can draw when I look at those names is solid kicking fly halves, all of them. Little bit of flair, but the one word that I always associated with you, Ella, is game management. And maybe this is a concept that might be a little bit too far for the people watching who are not necessarily that deep into their rugby. But I know a lot of people who do watch a lot of rugby will understand what I'm talking about. When I say the word game management to you, what comes to your mind? How do you approach 80 minutes of a match?
This was this is I don't think I
It's
can
hard,
say
huh?
this when I come here. When
It's
I
like a
start playing
test.
rugby, I think no, I can't share my IP on this question.
Uh,
Not
okay,
just
fine.
from
No,
an
no, no.
individual, but from a Springbok point of view as well.
Yeah.
That's the next question I can't see.
Which is fair enough because, again, I say when I looked at you, that was the point of difference that I could see. I could see the flair, I could see the kicking, but there was something a little bit more than just the basic skill. And I think when you first came into the big spotlight. I mean, already, obviously, at junior level, people would have heard your name, but I think it was in that 2011 Currie Cup final where you guys played Bucks and you were man of the match. I think you slotted all the points that day, if I'm not mistaken. That was a big moment for your name to get out there. And I think a lot of people who might not have known you before that would have certainly stood up and took notice. Was that moment as big for you as it was for us on the outside looking in, where we thought, "Gee, this guy is going to go far"? Or do you think that moment of realization that you can do this happened before that final?
Before that final.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got a strong belief in the hard work. Yes, there's understanding, but there's also there's a thing like understanding and of through knowledge of the game and situations and scenarios, which my dad has done for me. When I was 2011, I was still young, learning from a different perspective. But the harder you work, if you train very hard, like situations like that doesn't feel like pressure. It just becomes the norm. Might be easy to say, but subconsciously, I just believe if you train hard and you prepare well, and you get a situation, and for me, for example, I never felt that pressure. I have to kick this over, or yes, I look at times and things because I'm a leader, and how to manage things in terms of when to move, what should we do, because there's no position. But yeah, I think the preparation when it comes to moments like that, just through my hard work and subconsciously just going about business, and obviously the team was working hard. We had some tough times when I was still in Leipzig learning. But yeah, it's difficult to put it in words, because you're taking me back now to them. And that I almost missed something that I'll share is I've almost missed the playoff. There was traffic on my way to the semi-final. So no one knows it. Yeah. So literally, I missed the whole preparation before the game. Literally got there a few minutes before warm up, and go and play the game, and it was fine. I almost missed the game because of the traffic. I was on my way from Victoria. So there's things that I remember.
I do find some rugby players, if you don't give them enough time to think about the game too much, not consider what is going to happen over the next 80 minutes, you throw them in the deep end, that's when they sometimes play their best rugby.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe because of my military background, being solution-based and on the spot, you have to find a solution or go about things. You can't stagnate. You have to figure things out. Yeah, it's just a thing that I always laugh about. I could have missed the game. It was like an hour and a half or something. I just made a phone call and said, I'll be late. I might miss the game. And yeah, I had police actually escorting me. That was big. The fans were there before me to make sure I wasn't going to play, so I drove off. So that was Yeah, it was 2011. Good memories and yeah, found.
Yeah, no, it was. It was that team, that Lions team in 2011, absolute power. It was also your first opportunity to taste Super Rugby as well, which is a step up. And then it took a year, I think. And 2013, you got your first Springbok call up, if I'm not mistaken. It's like, 2 years from that, on from
2012.
that final 2012. Yeah, yeah, you were already
So
there.
yeah,
And I
before
think your first game was Barba's, was it?
yes, 2010. So I was after that Curry Cup 2010. Uh, so I was preparing, I came back from Eastern 20 and preparing with the seniors. I was invited to train with them and Coach Mitch. He had patience with me in terms of my development, coming back from Eastern training. And I will never forget my first Curry Cup game was against the Leopards. First one is Leopards, they got in. I only got like 5 or 10 minutes, and then yeah. So Erky was playing that time.
Yeah.
He was Erky. Carlos Spencer finished up with the Super Rugby, and yeah, I was guided by one of the best um, comes to rugby, Coach John Mitch, and I was fortunate enough that brilliant coaches there. Coach Jantjies was still there,
Yeah.
and even before that, Coach Leon and Coach Mesk and Coach Jichon us. Yeah, I had some unbelievable people before that. Coach Tommy. There's so many people that I can mention. Um, that's got an influence in terms of me getting my opportunity at senior rugby, and it happened fast, like in terms of one Curry Cup. Coach Peter selected me for the two of the guys to learn things, and yeah, that's how we started.
Yeah, these are guys I'm definitely going to be speaking to on the podcast because I think a lot of people maybe underestimate or undermine John Mitchell. Maybe those who've never seen him operate in New Zealand, an absolute legend for the Chiefs. I think he scored more tries than any other forward for the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. Just an absolute legend of a player when he played, and a great man as well. And then there was Peter de Villiers, who also had to take a leap of faith because you were, and this has always been, unfortunately, your story. There was always criticism coming in from people who really shouldn't have been criticizing at the time. But Divi saw through that, and he went with you, selected you. That must also be something special to have somebody trusted you despite all of the noise that's happening, still select you, and I think you did great things for the Springboks when you had your opportunity.
I don't even know what to say. I don't care about what. I don't. I don't. I don't actually. Yeah, I'm instantly driven, and uh, I didn't even think of things like the coach said or the media said, whatever. Um, there was a strong group, the World Cup group from 2007, and uh, there was a power group, and uh, that was old school for me. And yeah, what a group, brilliant group to be able to learn from them without me knowing. Um, just being there and yeah, getting that opportunity and sitting there, I still preach it. Is um, getting there the first time, not knowing when to kick and why you're kicking. Um, yeah, that was a bit something that I've learned along the way. But yeah, that's another chat for another day. But I was young and got the opportunity of learning from the group. But if there's one thing that I preach to young men, young Springboks and young players. Ask questions, find out why do you think. Don't sit there and get distracted or getting big-headed about yes, yeah. Go find out why you're kicking. That was just from my perspective. Sitting there, being overwhelmed. Looking back at that, you can get caught up in being overwhelmed and being in the Springbok system. And so, get there, get knowledge, ask questions in terms of why are you doing this? Ask why is a guy like Percy running this line, or why is he kicking long? Ask that question, find out, and then your game will also be better.
Yeah, how did you? I mean, it's a massive change. Even from when you get to leave school and you get your first contract into Super Rugby into internationals. That's a very big jump. Do you think that? And we're going to get into game changers now because I think it's an incredibly important role. But do you think that there was enough guidance for players, not just yourself, I'm talking generally, about what to expect, about how big the Springbok brand is, about how much emotion people carry? When you guys win, people feel it and they reflect it. When you guys lose, people feel it and they get sad and angry and all of this sort of thing. Was there any conversation about how much the off the field stuff matters as opposed to just coming through training, learning the moves, learning the calls? What was the norm? How did you guys experience that jump? And that jump was huge.
I think the things are in place. Everything been for many years. It's been there. I had a little bit of a touch on with Joan and Rudy on their show.
And Rudy, yeah, good show.
The things are there. Brilliant. The things are there. It's about It's about getting the players to get knowledge of it. Because it is there. Players must get knowledge, being aware of it, and then they must make decisions around that and learn it and understand certain things on and off the field. So it is there. It's been there for many years, even before I was there. But again, it goes back to the player. Go there and ask questions. Don't just go sit and just go about things like that. It's your responsibility to take ownership of being better, or take ownership of why this and why that. First start with you, and then the system or coaches and the other things, staff will look after you. You have to go and ask questions. You have to take ownership of that.
Yeah, I saw a clip. You talk about Joan and Rudy's show, which I absolutely love. I mean, those guys are absolutely flying and they're fun. And I saw a little clip that went far and wide, and you were talking about, or at least just a throwaway line about if other people had gone through what you've gone through, things would have ended up even worse. Do you look? And I'm being diplomatic. I'm being very diplomatic. But you have been through a lot, and I think there are a lot of players who couldn't cope with the pressure. And I always wonder about the mental well-being of rugby players. And I don't want to get too dark in the conversation, but I don't know if you remember Dan Vickerman, the former Australian lock. He was born in Cape Town. He played for the Wallabies. He took his own life after he retired playing. There was Clyde Rathbone, who captained the junior Springboks, who, after retiring, spoke about the fact that he wanted to take his own life as well because of the pressure. And these are guys who are playing in Australia, living in the first world. They've got access to things. They've got access to information. They've got access to knowledge. They've got access to all sorts of resources. But so many young rugby players in South Africa don't have access to these support structures. And I always wonder, sure, how much guys are walking around carrying that they're not going to let out, because it can be daunting, Allah. It really can. If you see your face on the front of a newspaper and it's not saying nice things, if you hear people whispering things on radio or on television and it's not nice, that's a lot to deal with. How did you decompress from that? How did you pull out and say, okay, no more? Was it your friends? Was it family? Was it teammates? Who did you fall back onto?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, let's just go. We started this conversation with I don't read things and what people's opinions and things like that. I don't. Yeah, it's got nothing. It's got zero. It's got zero benefit to me. Reading a newspaper or something about me because they don't know my reality. There's only a few people that actually knows me as a human being, and I'm at peace with it. I'm good. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not on the shirts for attention and validation. I'm a private person, and that's how I go about business. I know what makes me tick, and I know what things that makes me. I know what's my mojo. They're always taking it like find your mojo. I know what's my mojo, and yeah, being internet driven and be the best version of myself.
I still think you're being very diplomatic because I think my question is, who's your support structure? Because you're now putting yourself in a situation where you are the support structure for these young men. So if things go tough, at least they know they've got Coach Ella, right, to come to and say, look, this is not working out.
Yeah,
I'm not
if you must
coping.
I've got unbelievable people. I'm a uh, family person, and I've got Kevin and Kuzrashi, and I've got some power people, big organization. I've got my mother who is a big role, and Asteria, I've got Riza, industrial group, and there's, my family, and there's so many, I've got some special people in my life. Then I've got, I don't want to mention names, but I've got some unbelievable people in my life. It just is what it is, and I'm
no,
blessed.
that's no, that's fair enough. And I asked the question because sometimes, and I've come across a lot of young players from Craven Week trying to make their way. Some of them make it, others don't. And I think sometimes, guys can go into this game alone, like, yes, you're part of a team. Yes, you're part of a setup. Yes, you're part of a province or a club or whatever the case is. But it always feels like, I think, for a lot of young men, that when you rise, we rise together. When you fall alone. And that's not necessarily true. And this is why, and it takes me to Game Changers and what it is you're doing now. And you've touched on the fact that you're dealing with young men, that you're trying to help them determine their path, which I think is incredibly important. But what's more difficult, coaching these guys how to become professionals or coaching them to be better men?
It's on and off. I live in according to certain principles, and that's what I want to change from that principle, and it's just teaching them what it takes to be to give rugby a full go, because that's what I'm about. Rugby is my life, and it just is like that. And I was born, I think God is with this talent, and there's many ways for me to change lives. And yeah, I was born to do it through rugby. Um, and I love what I'm doing, you know. Yeah, when I go back to rugby, it's going to be power. And then after that, getting into, I've got a playing goal and I've got a coaching goal. So, yeah, I've got certain things in place and I know what's my vision. And now it's just about, giving young men the exposure to me and just develop them and get them to full potential. That's through rugby, studying, making sure that they be the best version of themselves, and obviously guiding the parents, because I think that they've got a certain way of supporting the young men. I've got a certain way of supporting them. But yeah, young men, they must being exposed from 8-year-old up until professional person. You have to own your own decisions and start with you first, and you've got to teach them, and then I'll guide them, and get them to full potential through a process, and parents do that in a certain way. And yeah, there is just a little bit of few words of what I'm about.
And are you focused mostly on groups, or are you doing more one-on-one stuff?
It's a individual development program. You know, it's in detail. Every player has a different strengths, and it's about opening up their game naturally, what they were born to do. And it's about talent, and I'm coaching on the other side, you know, in terms of how do I make sure that we keep on opening up his strength, you know, finding ways to keep on opening up and get him do it more.
So you mentioned something there, and I hope you don't kill me for asking the question, but you said it, not me. You've got coaching goals, and you said you've got playing goals. Does this mean we can expect to see you on the field sometime soon? I know you went off to France in your last stint. You're back home now. What are your plans, Ella? Have we seen the last of Elton Jantjies doing his thing, man? Like you mentioned it. That's why I bring it up. I want to see you back on the field. You can tell me the plan.
I'll be back on the field. I'll be back on the field, and as a player, I'll be back on the field soon. And now it's just about being the best version of myself. You know, there's certain people that need to control that, and then I've got both right. I've got some goals, and I've got 2 goals: player goals, coaching goals. So that is nice and clear, and it's about me working hard and make sure that I reach those goals through hard work and process that's in place.
Well, that's very good news. I'm not going to ask for too many details. I hope it's not too long
I'm
from
not
now. We've
retired,
missed you.
so that's fine.
Yeah. I didn't want to say retired because that's a very bad word, and I think was it Joan who used the word. We're not gonna mention that word
I'm
because
not.
because you really do have a lot to offer. And in case people don't understand why I say something like this, the last time we saw you on the field, you were literally playing for the Springboks. Clearly there was a role for you to serve as a senior player, and it tells me that you've still got a good couple of years in you left. How long do you think you can still keep up the playing? And I ask this knowing that you're a very disciplined man. When I last saw you, you're in good shape. You did a bit of boxing. I know you've been hitting the gym. You're on the field every day. So I know you're fit and you're ready to go. How many years do you think you can still give us some entertainment, my brother?
As long as I can to make sure that I keep working hard on myself, and fresh half, and yeah, probably 45
Yeah,
or something.
man. I'm not gonna put
So,
it beyond.
yeah,
I don't think it's beyond you, my bro. I don't think it's beyond you. Like I know that 40 is the new 30, so you can keep going. We never saw you put on the afterburners too often, so you've preserved yourself. I know you can give us a good couple of
no,
years.
no,
Um, No, but it's really good to hear. And do you think you're going to marry your playing with learning more about coaching? Because now you get to look at it from a slightly, wider point of view. Were you thinking about the game, yes, as a rugby player, but also as a coach and a bit of a life coach as well? Do you think the two now, going back to playing now, will have changed a bit in terms of your approach?
I'm learning from I'm learning from there's various ways that I'm learning. Um, I'm talking about what's present and what's current. Um,
Yeah.
so I've always, when I was still playing, I was doing some things that, that not a lot of people know, but
Mm.
I don't have to mention it. Um, but just seeing certain things that it inspires me, and I love seeing people moving forward in the rugby. And so, yeah, I'm learning, learning in various ways when it comes to um, working with young men in terms of guiding them and mentoring them and on and off the field. So I'm learning from that perspective. But as a player, um, from a playing mindset and what I've learned and picked up, and with that knowledge of knowing what it takes, being internally driven, taking some of the principles is definitely into the game changer. It's about hard work
Yeah.
and about go and just learn as much as you can, and just keep on developing is the process.
Yeah, no, I really look forward to seeing you on the field very soon, and thanks very much for being generous um, with what you're sharing as well, because I think a lot of people weren't sure. Now we know. So if there are any journalists watching and they want to find a headline for this conversation, is the show will go on. It hasn't ended yet, which is absolutely fantastic. Let's look at some current rugby stuff. I know you've come off the field not too long ago, Ella. I'm not going to keep you too long, but very quickly a little bit of a look at what we can expect from a Springbok point of view. There are a couple of guys, obviously, who will be vying for that number 10 jersey for Rassie's team at the moment. Andre Pollard is probably the main man. Mani Libok has taken a lot of flack as well in the last couple of seasons. You'll see that we've got a lacquer chart going. These are the guys who made it to Rassie's alignment camp. Um, there's Jordan Hendrickse, who's also gone very well. Sia Masuku for the Sharks has had a couple of really good performances, but everybody's talking about Sasha. But before I talk about the young man, let's talk about the older statesman in that Springbok team. Andre coming back to the Bulls from England, which is going to be great for the Bulls. But obviously, maybe not too many years left, and maybe not necessarily one for the next World Cup, though. Andre, like yourself, a professional, he'll keep fit. Do you think he's got it in him to still be there for the next World Cup?
From a playing perspective, fully can go. And there's a lot of other young men that's there that still needs to develop,
Hmm.
and learn. Yeah, there's it's a process, to play at that level for 10 plus years. Yeah.
Marnie Libbok has taken a lot of flack, which to me is very strange. But then again, I'm a very biased Springbok supporter. I watch with sheer and utter bias. I will support the guys win or lose. And it's strange to me that Marnie can come back to South Africa as a World Cup winner and people are still giving him a lot of flack. Incredibly talented player. He brings something very different to that Springbok team. He gets the backline moving in a very specific kind of way. He finds gaps that a lot of people won't necessarily find with the pass. What do you see Marnie's future with the Springbok looking like? I hope he sticks around because I just think he does something that's completely different to what we generally see. I'm wondering if we haven't frozen on his screen. But yeah, I mean, we'll try and reconnect with him. But obviously, this is the big talking point that I wanted to have with him before I let him go. Looking at that Bok barometer, a couple of Springbok Flyhalf, I suppose, pretenders to the throne, which is a bit of an issue. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to chatting with Alton, but do share your views as well. I do believe that Mani has taken a lot of criticism, unduly so, despite him being a very special player, and we saw what he can produce, not just in Springbok's colours, but in Stormers' colours as well. And people tend to forget that the year before the Boks went on to win the last World Cup, he was the top scorer in the URC. And of course, the last man that I would like to speak about, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to before I say goodbye to Alton, is Sasha Feinberg Ngomezulu, who's taken the international rugby world by storm. Big injury for him over the last few months. So he's been a massive miss from a Springbok point of view. And you always hope that, especially a young player, if they're out for that long, when they come back, they're going to come back pretty much where they left off. And from what we've seen in the last 2 weeks, it looks like the young man is going to pick up from where he left off. Sia Masuku will be disappointed, I think, at his opportunities this year. He's been very good for the Sharks, but he does play a bit part role sometimes. And you saw, of course, the name of Jaden Hendrickse, who's also in and around that Springbok setup, and I think his ability to play in multiple positions might just have him pip Sia Masuku. And then there's the other long-term injury that nobody's talking about, and I think there's still a debate happening as to whether Damian Willemse is going to spend his latter rugby playing years in the number 15 jersey or in the number 10 jersey, because I think is equally adept at both. Maybe there could be something said for his kicking game from a fly half point of view. But in terms of getting the backline moving, in terms of being an exciting runner and getting the backline moving and the attack and a good defender as well, which we saw, and you'll remember him chasing down, I think it was Caleb Clark at Ellis Park. Damian Willemse is still an incredibly talented player. Right, Ella, I think you're back. I've been rabbiting on about the Springbok fly half situation. So we started with Polly. And after him, I was talking about Marnie Libbok, who's been taking so much criticism for somebody who's got a Rugby World Cup winning medal. I don't understand it, to be frank, because the man is brilliant at what he does. And people will talk about his kicking boot, but then I will always remind them that he was the top point scorer in the URC the season before he went to the World Cup. Do you think that we're going to see Marnie? I hope we do, for a number of years in the green and gold. What's your prognosis, Doctor?
Yeah, that's, from rugby is, it's not an individual sport, uh, everybody's got different strengths and hopefully work on, and it's not based on an individual. It's based on probably the whole group, or if it comes to teams and stuff, and you have to keep on evolving your game, and rugby doesn't have an age. No matter how much experience you've got, it's just you have to keep on developing your game until you retire, and you have to have individual goals and see where you can improve your game. And no matter how, if you're 35-year-old or if you're a 19-year-old coming into the system, you have to develop your game, and that's for everyone. It just is what it is. Um, yeah, throughout your whole career, you have to keep on developing your game. Um, I've never spoken about individuals and compared myself whenever people are asked. When I do media, from my experiences, is getting engaged, trying to take myself individually to engage with a team or with another individual. Um, for example, if I played against, let's use say Andre against me against Andre or Lions against the Bulls. Back then, they always try to engage me with individual things like that, but rugby is not an individual thing. That's my thing. That's my opinion, and so I can't comment about individual things. Yeah, but I'm always a call away to people guidance and
we know you're not retired yet, so yeah, no, keep your phone on. Don't switch it off. Okay, that's fair enough. And I'm not going to ask about the individuals, but I do want to reserve one name because he's such a young man, because his path could go in any direction, and that's Sasha Feinberg Ngomizulu. I'm sure you watched his game and thought he's got he's got that flair, he's got that young person sort of I can throw my body at absolutely everything that comes my way. Um, what have you thought so far? Have you thought he can get even better, or do you think um, that there is a danger that he could try to do too much? Again, I know you don't want to talk about the individual and criticize their game, but Sasha is a very young man, and he came on so fast, and then there was the issue with the injury. Um, but he is exciting, and it's good to see that kind of talent. Where do you see his direction in terms of being an international?
so, are you referring to on the field is doing a lot, or are you referring off the field?
No, I'm talking to
On the
on the
field.
field. Yeah, because I don't know him well enough to say, he's too
There's
distracted
no
or this,
such
that,
thing
and
as
the
too
other.
much. No, rugby is not. Rugby is not. There's no such thing as too much. If you Rugby is a physical sport, and yeah, I think someone mentioned it a couple of days ago, weeks ago, that it doesn't make sense to me. How can you manage being physical or getting into actions when you're on a rugby field? How can you manage that? There's no such thing. Um, you can't on the field decide if you're going to go into a tackle or clean something or clean someone or carrying the ball. You must manage your contact on a rugby field. Then you're not a Springbok. That's what I believe.
Yeah, you're a
Yeah.
diplomat, Ella. Thank you. Thanks for your time, my brother. Like I really appreciate you talking to me. I know life is very busy at the moment, and I'm grateful for that for you because I love to see coaching. I've lectured and taught before, and there's no time in my life where I learned more than when I was teaching. You don't just teach people; you teach yourself to teach people. So yeah, I'm very grateful for you. Okay, but this is my last question. Last question before the stream cuts out completely. What would you think if you look back at your career so far, because your career is not over, do you find to be the highlights? Whether it's a favorite moment, favorite match, favorite result, or even just a moment or a first cap, is there something that sticks out as uh, a moment you'll never forget?
World Cup. World
That's
Cup.
an easy one.
Yeah, there's a lot of hard work that through things that
I had to deal with, and yeah, if you have a common goal, anything you can achieve anything, and look forward to the future. It's going to be a powerful story. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. And then maybe an unfair questions. Do you have any regret? And I say it's unfair because your story isn't far from over, as we've established.
Now, obviously, you learn about things, and you learn about things on and off the field, and every decision for me, it's about what's best for me and what's best for me moving forward. And that is yeah, that's where I am at the moment. Be the best version of myself, to be the best coach and to be the best mentor or parent or um, just the best version of myself, and yeah, I'm power. I've always been like that, and gives me peace, and I just prefer that. Even the second one that I actually said yes to the interview, Juan and the page, and they asked me probably a while ago,
Yeah,
and yeah, yeah, you also you must also keep doing your thing, and you've got a big step in rugby. You know the road, and just keep on inspiring, and I'm not gonna say a lot of things, but there's only a certain group of people that I allow and say yes to. So yeah, you should also keep doing your thing. Um,
yeah, man.
yeah, there's a reason
No,
why. Yes.
Yeah, no, I
Yes.
appreciate you, brother. I really, really, really do. And that's why I say wholeheartedly, I can't wait to see you back on the field. And whether it is you playing or whether you're imparting knowledge, South Africa needs it. These young men need it. So thanks, Ella. Thank you very much. We'll definitely talk again. I think there'll be a time to reconnect when we get closer to maybe the Springboks being selected and Flyhalf battles happening. I won't ask you about individuals, but I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you back on. You're an absolute legend. And keeping on, my brother.
Always, my brother. Enjoy.
Cheers,
Thanks
bro.
for the
Take
chat. How to catch up.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate seeing you. And at home, yeah, like, share, subscribe. This is what we're about. This is for the true rugby fan from true rugby people. And yeah, Elton is right. Not many people get a chance to talk to him. He doesn't like doing this stuff too often. So yeah, grateful that we could have him here on the True Rugby Union Show. I'm Kolanjinga, and that's been That Rugby Union Show. Cheers, everyone.